Howdy, folks. Welcome back to the MatchNet podcast. We have a specialist guest for y'all today. We are introducing the new director of the Blessing Ministry, the BFM. Drum roll. I'm going to drum roll here on my desk. Who is this fine young lady? And what is she about? And why is she doing this? This is Carina Méndez. Welcome, Carina, to the BFM.
Hello, everyone. I'm so excited to be here. I'm so excited to be finally in the MatchNet podcast, and I hope you will hear me more often around here. But yeah, I'm so excited to get to know you and for you to get to know me.
Yeah, fantastic. So that's kind of the intro to this episode. Is we're going to introduce you, who you are, but actually more, I think importantly, is where you're going, why you're here, what motivated you at a young lady with a newborn. Isabella is rather young, right? She's almost 1 year old, right?
Yeah, not even
1 year old. Inspired you to become the director and take on this role. So I want to hear a little bit about that, but also what your vision is, where you're trying to take the Blessing Ministry and what is calling you here, right? So tell us a bit about yourself. We have no idea where you're from or where you're living or any of that.
Of course. So I'm originally from South America, Uruguay. I was born as the second generation there and took a kind of leadership role. But my personality in general is mostly very strong leadership type, rebellious kind of personality. So I did, although I did got in Uruguay, I took a lot of leadership roles. At the same time, in my like growing process and my teenager years, mostly, I struggle a lot with the concept of the blessing and as well the matching and the purity itself, right? So I have a whole story. Maybe another day we'll share about it. But that my own journey and my own questions inspire me that I was really passionate about the concept of the blessing and matching, something that it runs in my family as well. I was suggesting people, like to parents. I suggest my friend to a parent before I was even matched. So kind
of those. Yeah,
I was one of those making matches before the time. Nice. But at the same time, I'm very passionate about love, pure love, and sexuality. So that's where I started with High Noon, first as a volunteer in 2018, and then as a staff in 2020. It was a whole journey with High Noon, and I feel that became my foundation of a lot of the things, of how I do things, and I'm really grateful for High Noon. We launched High Noon in Latin America, and we did many things trying to expand other audiences here in the United States. And yeah, it was a wonderful 3-year journey together. And I wasn't planning to end it because honestly, there was nothing that wrong with High Noon. I didn't want to leave High Noon. It wasn't like, I was looking for a place to live. But after giving birth, I was really debating if I should continue working or not, or how I'm gonna balance motherhood and my mission. So that was like the main question I had. And after the 8-day ceremony, I have a kind of like a spiritual experience where I felt that my daughter was not mine, and that it was God's daughter. Therefore, it wasn't my only responsibility to take care of her. Like it wasn't, she will not depend only on me on her growing process, and that I should become an example of what I want her to become. So if I want to continue my mission, do it in a heart where like I can do it in a way that is enjoyable, that is joyful, and that if she one day decides as well to do some offering to the world, that she can feel, even if she had children, that she can do it herself. So that kind of like drive me to feel like, okay, if I'm gonna be spending time away of my daughter and in the future my other children doing some sort of mission, then the feeling was I wanted to level up in what I was offering. And of course, like what that meant, I didn't know. I thought it was inside High Noon, so I had some ideas. But yes, then exactly around that time, there was promotion about an application was open for the director role of Blessing Ministry, and I always knew it was like I always knew that at some point in my life I will be in BFM. It was something that I knew that it was coming, but I was expecting that that will happen like on my 30s or something like that, like late, really. Well, I feel like I'm too young, but I still, I'm not so far from 30,
Yeah.
but it still feels so far.
Hey, I started BFM work when I was 22. So
I don't know. I feel younger than I am actually, but either way, I thought I
you're
would
not you're
be
not
like,
that young. Don't worry.
I know. I had to remind myself. So yeah, I thought it will be later in my life, and so I let it go. I swear, I have in my mind at least 25 people that will be wonderful for the role. So I thought that like very quickly someone will that they will find the right person very quickly. So I was like, okay, I let it go. 3 months pass. 3 months, like my full maternity leave pass. I was already out of like postpartum depression and all those things, the experience. The hormones and all that you experience at
Not
the
funny.
beginning.
Not a
No
laughing matter,
funny.
Carina.
Exactly. I was past all that. And I heard that they haven't found someone for the role.
Yeah.
And I was like, what? How's that possible? I'm not, I was so
Doesn't everyone
shocked.
want to be the BFM director? Come on.
Exactly.
Dream job.
I know. I was like, how is it possible? So I know I'm very different. Maybe because I'm not American, but most Americans, I learned that most Americans don't want this job. Either way, I asked Susan from HR about the description of the role and the qualifications, and I was surprised that I had all the qualifications that they were required. So I entered in a very kind of like debating mode, shocking mode. I was shaking for like a whole 3 days, not knowing what to do. I I talked with Uncle John, and the feeling was like, okay, just apply. You don't know what is God's plan, and even if you don't know that, like you can figure it out in the process if God wants you to do this or not. So just put yourself available and then let God tell you. Because I mean, I had to go through the process of letting go my idea of like the possibility that I will not continue with High Noon. Um, but I just felt like I had to make myself available for God. And so I apply and I let it go. I didn't thought about it, and I was like, okay, if they don't accept me, better. It's doing better. So I passed, and the time passed. It was a very hectic time because it was just right before the blessing. So it really, like, I don't know how Andrea and Yana did it during that time, but they were able to do a interview with me, and the interview ended up being like 3 hours interview, just because we were talking about several, like it didn't feel like an interview. It felt like a conversation, and we were brainstorming and things like that, and that felt really good. Like, oh, that's a sign that there's something that I hear that I resonate with and that I can offer, right? And then yeah, it was funny because I was they gave me an offer. just right before the blessing. No. It was 10 days after the blessing. That was March 20. And then after we signed the offer contract, it was funny. Like literally 3 days after, they changed leadership, and now Kimi wasn't more the national leader, and Damien came in. So I kind of like Damien had Reverend Dunklin had to deal with, like, accept that I was in a new position. It was very interesting. And yeah, that's the whole story, I guess. To summarize, or no, like the part that I didn't share, it's like, okay, what made me at the end decide, okay, I got the offer. What made me accept the offer, right? And I the reason, honestly, it was mostly because I want to grow. I want to grow myself, and I felt that there was something I can offer. And I remember one of your podcasts here in MatchNet, Benji, the first episodes, you share about how you make a decision and you ask yourself what will be the most loving decision that you can take, right? And I felt that taking the role, knowing that it has been hard for people, or to find the right person, was the most loving thing I could do. And putting myself in an uncomfortable position, it will make me grow and faster in life. And I it took me some time, but it was hard. I had to get to the point that I felt confident that I had something to offer for BFM. And that's basically the whole story. And I know, like, everyone knows that the whole point of this whole process will be to grow into the role. Like, I'm not quite there yet 100%, but everyone trusts me, and with that trust, I want to trust God and myself that I will get there, and I have just to be more patient with myself.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. It's good to have a little background here. Are you blessed?
Oh yeah, I completely forgot about it. I skipped the whole part.
You're single mom here raising a daughter.
I mean, Robert's much more famous than me, so I assume everyone
That's
knows
about to
him.
change. Don't worry.
So yes, I got blessed with Robert Cunningham in 2020. We had a wonderful 2 years matching experience. Well, it wasn't it wasn't wonderful all the time, but we had our process, and then we got blessed. And yeah, it's been, he is Robert, my husband. He is my rock, my everything. And if I'm here, it's because of him, and because his willingness to really support me in every decision and everything. And he's now taking care of Isabella right now while I'm doing this podcast, for example. So, and we're really working as a team, and I honestly cannot do anything without him. Yeah. So I really feel my blessing as a blessing. That's just wonderful.
Wonderful. Yeah, it's wonderful. So I want to hear a bit about, if you will, download to us kind of what's on your heart and mind moving forward. I think this is cool because I just want to highlight the fact that Carina's story is like, she is a lot of you guys who are listening to this podcast. She's not like she's not like the Reverend Shanker type who was, God bless him, the BFD director for so many years. And we had Chris Sencha after that, and we had Marjorie Busing, we had Andrea, right, as kind of interim director. Now we have Carina. She is, and not to like underqualify her, but she's just like us, right? She's a second generation. She's questions her own, as you put it, you question your own contribution to the BFM role or your own worthiness of this role, but you decided, in the face of fear and uncertainty, you decided to courageously move forward, right? And to have faith. And I think that's a story for all of us and everyone that's, in a situation where, yeah, trying to make big decisions in life is, do I make the loving decision, or do I make the decision based in, what's convenient or what's safe, right? But with all that said, I do look forward to hearing more from you in the coming months here at the podcast. But also, I want to kind of hear, because I don't really know on a personal, like, I don't know what's on your mind. I know you guys just had a retreat, right? A staff kind of gathering in New York or New Jersey, and what's the lowdown? What's new in the BFM world?
Well, the thing that is new is the whole Providence is shifting right now. It's very interesting. It's something that has never happened in the history so far, like, and not at this level. Reverend Dunkley is really shifting and helping the U.S. North America movement to align with True Mother and to enter a new era. So that's completely new. That's something that we're trying to figure it out what it will look like, right? What it will look like in the new era, in align with True Mother, how we will work together, right? North America is very complex, our kind of like movement community, because we're so spread. There's more than 50 churches around the country, and although we had work in a sub-regional level, usually what happened, some sub-regions work really well as sub-regions, but others are very spread, and it's really hard to actually work in a sub-regional level. As well, Reverend Dunkley is telling us, or have told the whole movement, that we had to work in a local level. So that has a very big impact in how blessing ministry will work from now on. Pastors need have a stronger role in this new direction, and we're trying to figure it out. Like, honestly, as there's many questions and not so many answers yet, but I feel very confident, because it's kind of like how the whole thing is working right now. Like, it's not only BFN that is in this situation. The whole North American movement is in this situation where there are many questions, but not so many answers, because our Reverend Dunkley and True Mother is trusting us that we'll find the answers through connecting and aligning with her and with the Chongqing one. So it's empowering. It's an empowering era where we have, like, each one of us has their own responsibility to find these answers. It's like we don't have, there's no one from the top that is going to tell us, okay, you had to do this and that, that's not happening anymore. We had to understand, align with the heart, and then based on that, make the best decisions what direction heaven is telling us to go. So currently we're in a period of praying, gathering information. Some of the key things that I'm seeing in the future is that at least the national level BFM, their main purpose will need to be serving pastors and community leaders. We still don't know how that's going to look like and how it's going to be applied, but that's strongly what we've been feeling through conversations with Reverend Dunkley, with conversations with each other, that we need to unite. We need to feel united. And something that I envision that blessing ministry, and hopefully the whole BFN department too, is that we are not a separate organization. We are part, with our ministry, of Heavenly Parent Holy Community. That's really the thing. We are just a piece on the Heavenly Parents Holy Community, and each one of you is a piece, is part of this community. And we need to kind of like absorb this identity as Holy Community, as the as the what's it called? The nation, the chosen nation.
Mm,
We have to understand our identity as the chosen nation, as the chosen community, but not like close ourselves, but invite people to join our community.
mm,
And there's many things happening, shifts when we understand completely the concept of heavenly parent, and when we understand completely what is true mother and what it means that the true mother is only the begotten daughter, and how that balance with our heart and love for true father, right? So when we see that from that point of view, a lot of things changes, a lot of things shifts, and so right now we are in a just align our hearts,
mm,
praying, understanding what is the struggle at the local level, because the so far the history has been that anyone in a headquarters in an office is telling people in a local level what they have to do, and then it's a friction, right? That like it's very interesting because Dr. Young, before having to leave, he he kind of prepared everyone to this, because he made basically almost everyone in headquarters to go to a local level and work in a local level, and that have a really big impact in how people who were working in headquarters understood how things, like how things look in a local level, including the things that they do from headquarters, right? So is that's the whole thing that is very exciting. But as I say, there's not answers yet,
mm,
and I'm so looking forward to hear from everyone, every person. I want to talk with the matching supporters. I want to talk with the BFM representatives, the senior advisors. There's so many people involved in BFM, and they're amazing. It's like,
mhm,
honestly, Uncle John Abel said he runs 50% of whatever BFM does. He's
mhm.
like crazy. And because of people like him, is that the things are still running, right? But the truth is, our church currently is going in a very big crisis externally, at least, and internally, we're trying to connect ourselves. So that's where we are, I
Yeah.
guess. And but we're very, very hopeful. Like it's scary but hopeful.
I want to echo the BFM. The reason that I became a matching supporter when I was 19, 20 years old, when I first was trained as a matching supporter, is I went to the workshop just to kind of see what it's about to become a matching supporter. This was in New York, UTS. And I was inspired by how selfless these people are. Like matching supporting is one of the most behind the scenes selfless things you can do. It's like you help people get matched and blessed. They they get blessed, they get married, they have their kids, they have their wedding, and they completely forget about, generally
Oh, totally.
they completely forget about you. Like how many people I've helped through the matching process, like, oh, congratulations, and it's not why we do it, right? But I was inspired
Yeah.
by how selfless, like the absolute selflessness that people have as matching supporters is what moved me to want to be one, actually. And that's kind of led me on this path to wanting to be a part of this, because I wanted to do something that was just like really in the lives, in the nitty gritty lives of helping people go through this process of understanding themselves and where their weaknesses are and the roadblocks, and helping them overcome those, like sexual integrity, like self-consciousness, like insecurity, like uncertainty of the future, like all that stuff, and help them through the process and receive the blessing. It's one of the most fulfilling things. So I'll just echo that. I think BFM folks are just incredible. Like the amount of devotion people spend, time, energy, and selflessness. Like I was even thinking about you, right? Like people who are not even matched are like trying to match people, right? Like they have that level of desire. Like instead of matching myself, I'm gonna recommend people to my friends. Like that kind of desire is really beautiful. But also something you mentioned about this new spiritual economy that we're in, right? Something that I gained most profoundly from the rebirth workshop that I attended with Damien in Las Vegas is that I believe, based on my understanding and my sincere prayer in the Chongshimwon, is that I believe that we are in an era that is akin to the early Christians after the resurrection or the crucifixion and resurrection of Jesus. At the time, they didn't have anything to go off of. They didn't have a Bible, right? They didn't have words from Jesus so much. They didn't have a Chongshimwon. They didn't have anything, written word. So what did they use? They literally had to go by, what does my conscience say? And how do I align that with God and with Christ? And that is what made it into the history books. And that is how history was written. And so I believe that we're in that time, and it's an empowering time, because then we can ask ourselves, okay, what does my heart say? And what does God say? But I also know that this is a very tricky question for people, because people will confuse this with, oh, I'm just going to do what I want.
Yeah.
I'm just going to do whatever I want, and I'm going to hope and pray and have faith. That's what I'm supposed to do. Wrong. Totally wrong. So I want to make this clear. Like there's a certain motherliness about this that is required, which is like, you know, follow your heart, follow your conscience, your original mind. But there's also a fatherly necessity that I want to employ here, which is no, don't do what you want, because what you want is probably wrong and selfish. You know what I'm saying? So there's like a balance here. So I'm curious about this, Carina. Like what is the balance between how do I know what my conscience and what God wants, but how do I make it not starting a splinter group or becoming the next, you know, anyways, we won't get into that.
Yeah, I do believe that the main point here is unity. Like if you can grasp True Mother's vision, if you can grasp completely redundantly vision of what is like direction of the future of our movement here in North America, if you can really feel it, see it, touch it in a way, right? And it's completely aligned and it's completely connected, and you are actually praying for it, and you feel like you see True Mother, and you really feel like, okay, I completely know this person. I completely know her and I understand her mission, and I want to do something for her, for what she has done in this earth, right? You read True Mother's autobiography and you're like, by the way, it's so funny. I read True Mother autobiography when it came out, and my feeling was, oh my goodness, this is nothing. Like I didn't feel anything. I was like, why is she self-promoting herself all the time? That was honestly my thought. And then after the Rebirth workshop, I started to read the autobiography of True Mother again. I was like, completely different. It's like, what is this? Why I didn't see it from this way? It's so crazy. But yeah, it's like if you really understand the vision, and then you really pray of what are your action steps toward fulfilling that vision, then it's gonna be great. You know, it's gonna be great. I mean, honestly, what is the difference between witnessing through YouTube or witnessing through, I don't know, a podcast? God will not care how you like trying to connect people to God and True Mother, right? This is not the way. Like you can do it differently. Like you can just trust your God, trust your talent, but it has to be connected with True Mother. And we need trust. We need to trust that our leaders are guiding us to the correct place, right? So if we don't trust currently our leadership, then we're going to have a hard time to take right decisions. That's the truth. So, but yeah, and then we need to trust in the principles, and we need to trust, like BFM, sadly, and not sadly, like so many people are struggle with blessing ministry because they think that we are the lawyers of our church, that we have, it's like a book of rules that people need to follow, and that's who we are, right? And in a way, blessing ministry it is, because they are in charge of protecting lineage and making sure that lineage is protected and it keeps and it changes in the correct way. So there is some kind of like steps to get there. But so many people like don't trust that these guidelines are are accepted and are based on true mother kind of like direction, right? So in a way, we need to trust that, and we need to understand like and accept that if there are some guidelines coming from um, Korea, coming from international headquarters, they need to trust that these guidelines are being approved by True Mother. And so my I think that that's the distinction. There's the poem of the crown of glory that I think it really represents how to connect in this moment where you have to make your own decisions and guidance. Okay, so True Father wrote the poem of crown of glory, and it says, "When I doubt people, I feel pain. When I judge people, it is unbearable. When I hate people, there's no value to my existence. If I believe, I'm deceived. If I love, I'm betrayed. Suffering and grieving tonight, my head is in my heads. Am I wrong? Yes, I'm wrong. Even though we are deceived, still believe. Even though we are betrayed, still forgive. Love completely, even those who hate you. Wipe your tears away and welcome with a smile those who know nothing but deceit, and those who betray without regret. Oh, Master, the pain of loving. Look at my hands. Place your hand on my chest. My heart is bursting, such agony. But when I love those who act against me, I brought victory. If you have done the same thing, I will give you the crown of glory." Why I'm bringing this poem is because I know that there's been pain from the past, and I know that we're not trusting each other. And if we really want to know how, like, if a decision or like a step that we receive through praying is aligned correctly, is it coming from a place of loving? Is it come from a place of trust? Is it come from a place of really like unconditionally giving? Or it come from a place of I'm doubting about my leadership. I'm judging the people who are leading us. I hate those people because they have hurt me in the past. If we come from that heart, then yes, we will create different groups. But if we come from a place of forgiveness and continue loving, then we will see changes in our community.
Mm.
So many people have gave up in our community because of the mistakes of the past. I feel and I truly believe that we're in a new era where we need to forgive about the past mistakes, and we need to align with a heart of like we can do it differently. But the thing is that we cannot do it by ourselves. We have to do it through connecting and aligning ourselves again in unity.
How'd you? So what I'm hearing you saying is that, so I'm kind of trying to wrap this around my head.
Yeah.
What is aligned is not just what I want, obviously. It's not just what God wants, because that is just, anyone can say, God told me to do this, right? So it has to be a triangular alignment between my conscience and God and true parents.
Mm-hmm.
And that is how alignment happens. And it's through that unity, but it's not through unity, actually. What I'm hearing you say, it's through trust.
Yeah, and
Right.
it's like the thing is, true parents and God, they're so far away in a way, right? They're so far away. So what I'm saying is like we need to trust in our leaders, and the people that they're closer to us too. Like we need to trust, like on Reverend Dunklin, on our pastor, and of course there's some. I mean, we learn in the Rivers workshop there is still leadership have made mistakes. So we cannot forget about the alignment with parents and God, because if we see that a leader is not aligned with that, then it's a right decision to not follow that leader. completely, or at least not in that direction. But at the same time, now we need to come back to gain that trust. Even if one leader or a group of leaders did something wrong, the truth is that instead of a triangle, it's like a square actually. And our connection with true parents is our leadership, is our pastors, is our national leader. So we can hate them, or we can choose give them another opportunity and another opportunity, right?
Yeah.
So that's my main point. It's like, of course, we need to be aligned with true parents, but true parents are far from us as well. So who is our connection? Is our leadership.
I'd like to get more into trust, because that's something that a lot of people wonder about. It's like, how is trust actually built? You know, we talk about having trust within couples, trusting with parent-child relationships, and it's not something that you can just force, right? It's like, oh, I'm going to trust everybody. I'm going to leave my door open in my house and my car unlocked from now on because I'm deciding to trust everybody. Sure. But is that wise? But also, how is trust actually created? And I kind of want to emphasize the importance of trust in a practical way in relation with parents in a matching process, right? Because this is a common question that people ask, is how do I build unity with my parents, right? Because we always talk about parent-child unity, spousal unity, but the reality is that based on one section of Father's autobiography where he talked about his relationship with Mother, and he said that the most important thing in a relationship is trust. And I realized that unity is actually a byproduct of trust. Unity is a manifestation, is naturally manifested when trust is present. So for example, if a matching candidate, if a fine young man or woman goes to their parent, and just in a hypothetical example, which is pretty common, and says, I would like to consider matching with this person, and has a recommendation, right? I met this person at GPA or at a workshop or wherever, and I'd like to consider them as a matching candidate. If it is a untrusting relationship, a ununited relationship, the parent will say, what? No, absolutely not. It's a terrible idea. You're wrong. I'm right. Just flat out. And then the child would say, well, I'm going to do it anyways because you don't know what's right for me, right? Kind of happens sometimes. But in a genuinely, let's say, trusting relationship, how would this situation unfold? The child will say, I have this suggestion, this recommendation as a matching for myself. If the child, and then if the parents don't agree, let's say the parents don't agree in this situation and say, I don't think that's a good idea. If they're a trusting parent, if they're a good parent, what would they say if they don't agree? They would say, I don't agree with you. I don't think it's a good idea, but I'm willing to support you. And I trust in your intention, and I trust that the outcome will be good, right?
Totally.
And on the other side, if a child is a really trusting child and a child says, I have this suggestion, and the parents say, I don't think that's a good idea, they're not going to say, oh, forget you, I'm going to live my life and do what I want. They will be like, oh, interesting. Why is it that my parent thinks this is a bad idea? Maybe there's something that they're seeing that I'm not seeing. Maybe perhaps my parents know me better than I do. Maybe they're able to see something in the future that's not going to work out, right? So the point here is that even though there's conflict, even though there's disagreement, there can still be trust and there can still be unity. And so I'm using this as like a prime example of what it looks like to build a united relationship in spouses, but also parents, is it's based on trust. It's based on, am I willing to consider that maybe there's something that my child or my parent on both sides is seeing that I can learn from, or I can gain from, or that I'm not seeing, right?
Yeah, that's a great question. Anna, I would love to hear from your thoughts. I'm just going to add that the reason it's so hard to trust is because trusting means letting go of control. When you trust, you lose control on that thing, Okay, I'm trusting my parents in this. I have to let go control of the results of this process, for let's say, right? Why I had to trust in my leadership. Therefore, I had to let go the control or the feeling that everything is wrong, like everyone is doing wrong, everyone is stupid. It's like I'm right. So going through the process of letting go control, that's one of the hard things of blocking a trusting relationship, including in the marriage too. Yeah, what do you think how trust is built?
I have no idea. I don't know. I think I'm a trusting person generally. Maybe, I don't know. But also I do believe that I have control, right? So in some senses I'm very trusting, in some senses I'm not. When you say that, like my house is always open. Like we don't ever lock our house door. I never lock the door of our car. And that's probably because we live in a trustworthy area. You know, I've chosen where we live to be somewhere that people are trustworthy. But yeah, I fundamentally agree with that idea that it's hard to trust because we lose something, or we perceive that we lose something in the short term for a long-term benefit, a long-term gain, and that's something that's hard to grasp, right? So when people are trusting in mother leadership, Uncle Damien, I think I'm going to call him that, Uncle Damien. That's a good word to use because people are like, I've known him for many years. It's like, I can't call him Reverend Dunkley or President Dunkley. It's hard, you know, so I'm going to call him Uncle Damien. That works. What does it look like to trust leaders, and how does that, I guess, have you experienced something like that, you know, in your own life so far?
Yeah, I think there's two things. One is to, like, in order to trust someone, you have to know them, right? And have this feeling that you know them. So personally, when I joined the rebirth workshop, I felt at the end of the workshop, oh, I kind of grasp the feeling of knowing Reverend Dunklin intentions and heart, and therefore it was super easy for me to trust him. And then he guided us to Mother's heart. So then I felt, oh, now I know true Mother's heart, and therefore it was again very easy to trust true Mother, right? And how you know someone is to understand the internal world, right? Of the each both the other person, right? So I did feel that I was able to understand these two key leaders, especially true mothers, intention on all this process. So I think that's one key, but then there's one aspect that is a decision. So you have to decide, and you have to, like, again, I know that there's been pain, and I know that we have felt judged, we have felt hate by others, and that have blocked our heart, and like we feel betrayed. I mean, honestly, like everything that have happened in the history of North America, it's mostly a history of betrayal, right? So of course we have lost so many members. Of course we are so far from our church, but at some point we need to we need to decide to choose to trust again. And yeah, that's kind of my feeling. Maybe one day we can do a podcast about trust after I reflect about it. But
I think this will be a
yeah,
common theme coming up with you here.
yeah,
is really figuring out what this means. You know, I like one point you made that I've been thinking a lot about, is that these traits that we aspire to be, like, I want to be a trusting person, I want to be a fearless person, I want to be a faithful person, I want to be a whatever, XYZ, fill in the blank. My realization in life, and also with like mentoring people, is that these traits are more skills that we develop than they are traits. They're more of just deciding, like you said, to be that and to make that choice. And we just kind of compile and string along many, many decisions like that, and bigger decisions like that, until we look back and we are that person because of the decisions we've made, right? So for example, somebody that goes to war to fight, despite it being scary, probably, I imagine, and fear-inducing, people decide to do that. And what makes people courageous is not because who they are, but it's because of their actions of deciding to, in the face of fear, courageously go forward and bravely move forward. That's what makes them courageous, is their actions. If you remember Batman, I don't know if you watched the Batman trilogy, Karina. I know Robert has, right? But there's this beautiful line in the first movie where he says, one second, let me put the voice on. It's not who I am underneath, but what I do that defines me. Okay. It's not who I am underneath, but what I do that defines me. I had to do the voice. So the point being that it's less effective, and it's actually more of a waste of time to think like, I'm going to be this person, I'm going to be this, but it's actually when the rubber hits the road, deciding. So for example, I really love Ilya and Diane's story. If you listen to Ilya's and Diane's podcast, in this matchup podcast, Ilya was sharing an experience where he was asked by his parents, who would you like to get matched to? What preference do you have? And his first thought was not a Black person, right? Hold the thought. And then he thought, is that wise? Is that loving to limit my opportunities and perhaps the opportunity for God to work if God was to say, hey, I recommend this beautiful person that would be perfect for you in creating a Chanogok family, and she's Black. Would that be a wise thing for me to say no, right? And so Ilya had the wisdom in the moment to make a decision, even though, might I add, even though he had a preference to not be matched with a Black person. He made the decision in the moment to put that aside for the sake of something greater. And so it was a decision. It was not a trait, because people are often trying to be, when they're preparing for matching, they're like, Benji, how do I become somebody that can just accept anyone? How can I become someone that is open-minded? How can I become someone? It's like and I always say the same thing, when it counts, you make the choice. Do you think that our parents, Karina, the first generation, had preferences when they went to True Fathers matching?
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
And my dad wanted a Japanese.
Of course he did, right? Everyone wants a Japanese. No, I'm kidding. Everyone has preferences. But did it let it get in the way of them getting matched and getting blessed? No, because it was a decision they made to focus on the internal and something more important and long-term. And so these traits of like, I want to be open-minded, I want to be accepting, I want to be trusting. It's really like, when it counts, are you going to make the right choice? Yeah. And then you string together enough of those decisions and bigger decisions, and you pass a certain threshold, and then you become courageous. You are fearless. You are brave. You are loving because of the decisions that you've made, and not because of some trait that you were born or not born with. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I think of myself when I was 18 years old, like, I don't know why, but I had this weird delusional bravery at 18 to go to true parents matching. Was it scary? Yeah, probably, I imagine. And I remember feeling frozen in the matching ceremony, right? But for some reason, I was like, I decided in the moment, okay, I can be frozen and let this emotion of fear dictate my life and control me, or I can just put it aside and move forward despite the fear. And then so for me in my life, just honestly, like, that's the threshold of like fear. So anything below that, I'm like, this is easy. Like, I can deal with fear. I can deal with anything, you know? And we all have those experiences. We all have those thresholds, and we just have to find the moments and pass them. And then we just are able to build the character traits of being those things, you know?
So when I was getting ready to become a candidate, I was faced with this question. When do I know I'm ready? How do I know I'm ready? And I know that this is a question that so everyone has it. It's like, how do I know when I'm ready? This is the answer I received, and this could apply to you, but I don't want to tell you, this is the only way for you to know that you're ready. But this is the answer I received. It was like, whenever you trust in God, you know, that he, like, whenever you let go control, basically, like whenever you trust in God and whenever you let go control, and you like, you have a heart that everything is going to be fine, you know, because when you let go control in the matching process, or when you become a candidate and you're like, okay, like, you have this completely trust that God has your back and everything is going to be fine, then you have to, again, you have to let go control that is on you, and then you have to trust, and with that trust, it brings peace. So entering to a matching process of becoming a matching candidate with that peace in your heart, that was what I felt, what it meant to be ready, to have peace in my heart, that I trust in God, that He has my back and He wants me to be happy. And that make a whole difference, because that meant that I will not have any single person in my mind. That will mean that I will not have a lot of restrictions about what kind of person I will get matched with. And that meant that I will be in peace when I'm communicating with someone, knowing that it might work or might not work. So that was kind of like the foundation when I became a candidate. And it really helped so much during like the rest of the process and my blessing, right? Of like having that foundation of trust. God has my back. With all the key moments in my life, that has been the main point, like the main, like when I gave birth, trust, let it go, control. That was like the main thing that make such a different experience. So basically what I'm saying is that the key moments in your life, we all need to let go, control, and trust, including, as you say, like getting matched, right? And it's a decision. Let it go. And it takes some time. And maybe when I realized that, I wasn't there yet. But I know, okay, whenever I get there, I put myself a deadline. I'm going to get there in 6 months. And I start to make conditions and decisions to get to that point, because I already have a North Star. I have a vision. Okay, that's what it looked like to be ready for me. So yeah, I completely agree. It's a decision. It's a goal.
Yeah.
And
that is a golden nugget for everyone. I think if everyone just implored that one thing, then it would change people's lives simply, right? Carina, could you sign us off with some final words you want to say?
I love you guys. I'm so excited for what is to come. I'm so excited for get to know you. And yeah, we'll see what it comes for the future of Blessing Ministry. Please don't come to me to ask me to change rules, because I cannot.
Nice.
Yeah. What about you?
That is helpful, actually, to know what you're not going to do, right? It's like, these are the things I am not going to focus on. Yeah, no, that's super helpful. I want to say appreciation to all of our thousands of people that are going to be hearing this. So especially huge shout out to our South Americans. Big shout out to you guys. We want to get more of the South Americans to listen into the podcast now that Carina's here. And but also, guys, check out the MatchNet program, the complete guide through the matching process, education, all the stuff at matchnet.us, and you can go systematically through the matching process there. Also, share this episode with anybody that is on your team, people that you love. The only reason we do this is to help you guys. So word of mouth spreading is how it grows, because we don't have a budget, and this is not some trendy topic. We're talking about the matching blessing here. It's a very niche subject matter, but we do this because we love you guys, and catch you in the next episode. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.